A few, I think it was last week, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, last week, because last week was still last year. Dunkel gave me a written review, which turned out to be a draft. And we read it out in this channel. And Dunkel decided to make a full video out of it. And he uploaded it to YouTube. And we're gonna watch it right now. So, I couldn't believe this is this fucker's first video ever. But here we go. Let me just switch over to this view. Here we have Dunkel Kaiser's video, Dragon Age the Veilguard, thoughts after 100% review.
Dragon Age the Veilguard. If you keep up with gaming, you've probably heard a lot about this game, and you might even be sick of hearing about it. But I wanted to add my own 2 cents to the conversation now that the fire has died down. Poke the embers a bit, so to say.
By the way, if you watched the video that we did reading this, a lot of this is going to sound very familiar. Dunkel used basically it's his writing, so there you go. You just don't get to hear it from my voice no more.
For context, I completed Veilguard and did every possible quest in the game that existed to my knowledge. I've been a huge fan of Dragon Age and BioWare in general for about 16 years at this point, and I wanted to make my own personal judgment on the game separate from all the noise surrounding it.
I'm blocking half of the subtitles. Poor Dunkel. Used to have hair. We still need to finish Mass Effect 2 and 3. Big Dunkel witnessing the death of BioWare 2024 colorized. One more thing, lore time. I have friends who worked on Mass Effect Andromeda that I graduated college with, because I went to the Berklee College of Music. Humble brag. And some of my friends there ended up working there. I heard all of the development hell stories from that game, from Andromeda. Compared to Veilguard, a masterpiece, but it was still like they had a skeleton crew of the previous team. Like they had like a handful of senior developers that had worked on the previous Mass Effects, and everyone else was fresh out of college. Like my friends who were working on it were fresh out of college. Like they had graduated weeks before they started working at BioWare. So, even without the primary character, it wasn't all that good and doesn't feel like it. Yeah, let's listen. But yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents there that BioWare has been on a downward spiral for many years now, which I believe started with Andromeda. Because even though I haven't played Mass Effect 2 and 3, I know they are masterpieces because they're very highly regarded. And then they just completely somehow turned their ship around. And they've been on this, they are, I hate that I'm going to use this word, they are Ubisofting.
Without further ado, this is what I have to say. Hope you find it useful. Right off the bat, let me get the woke elephant in the room out of the way, because much of the superficial criticism about the game has been along the lines of just woke bad. In the game, overt wokeness is kept to one companion, Tosh, the one you see in all the clips mocking the game. Her whole character arc is about a moody teenage girl coming out as non-binary and fighting with her mom.
Whatever the reason, we made it through. And this...
I love how you call Tash a moody teenager, and she looks like 40. Welcome to California!
This time, no dragon escaped.
Thanks to Tosh.
That's why we recruited her.
Actually, Tosh uses them for themselves now.
Yes, it's preachy and badly executed, to say the least. You cannot avoid recruiting her, but you can ignore all her personal quests. Which I didn't, because I was going for 100% completion.
You poor bastard.
I didn't encounter much in-your-face wokeness aside from her, and from you as the player being able to make your character into whatever woke monstrosity you want, of course. With that out of the way, Let's
You feel
talk
bad
about
for
the
him?
gameplay. Initially I found the gameplay itself pretty good, and that kept true through much of the game. It's not a Souls-like and doesn't want to be one either. The biggest negative is that at about halfway through the game, it pretty much runs out of enemy variety.
What do you mean it's not a Souls-like? There's a health bar right there of the enemy. You just dodged an attack with a dodge roll. And you're doing attacks. I can't even make the joke fully.
There is a new mini-boss here or something new there, but it does get repetitive by the end. There are a few minor annoyances too, such as the game being inconsistent with when your character gets knocked down or not. But all that
sounds
aside,
annoying.
I liked it. It's not the best by a
That's
long
the pro-
shot,
yep.
but it's good. The graphics and music are strong, especially environments and locations look very nice.
Yeah, look at that.
Yes,
That
the
looks
character
beautiful.
design does not fit the game. It's too cartoony. They should have gone for a much more realistic style.
You know, there is one game that works as a counter-argument for this, and that is Sea of Thieves. It's not because the characters are cartoony. It's because the characters are badly designed. Still, you do make a good point. You still make a really, really good point here. But I didn't think of... it just popped into my head. Wow, the environments look so beautiful. The water looks incredible. The skybox. The characters are cartoony, but more than that, they are just unappealing. Like, look at this. It's not appealing. Sea of Thieves isn't a dark fantasy. That is true. It's still, despite its cartoonishness, it does have its intense moments, and it meshes that beautiful landscapes with the landscapes themselves are not really cartoonish. Like, those are landscapes. They're not made in Unreal Engine, but it does find a good enough balance. I still agree that these are a little too cartoonish, but I would say that they are not only cartoony, but cartoonishly bad. Like, cartoonishly badly designed. Like, this one over here, she looks like something we would have seen in Assassin's Creed 2. This one, like, flat out looks like something we would see in Assassin's Creed 2 as, like, a background character in a workshop. Like a blacksmith or something. It's just... Considering that Assassin's Creed 2 came out... When did Assassin's Creed 2 come out? When did Assassin's Creed 2 come out? 2009. Considering that Assassin's Creed 2 came out 15 years before this, and this looks like something that would have been put in Assassin's Creed 2? Yeah, no. I think it's not just the cartoonishness, it's that it also doesn't fit. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's kind of the... is she blacksmith because she's black? No. She would be a side of a blacksmith because she's a woman. God damn it. You think we would have allowed for a woman blacksmith in 2009's Assassin's Creed 2? I rest my case.
But everything around the characters looks great, and the
It
music
looks
works
awesome.
really well with what's happening on screen. Here,
It's-
I want to mention that the game just runs flawlessly, since day one. Some say it's cope when people bring this up, but in this age of unfinished Unreal Engine 5 slop, it's still
Ooh.
commendable in my opinion.
Okay, so here's the specs, because I was trying to figure out what specs you were using last time. So Dunkel played on PC with an i7 13700K and NVIDIA RTX 3090 32 gigs of DDR5 on Windows 11. And this is a really good point, actually. We've noticed from a lot of AAA slop that unless it's Ubisoft, like Ubisoft is Ubisofting, but other AAA slop that we've seen functions. Like the core game works. Because you know what other example we have of a game like this that didn't really have any technical issues? Concord. Of all the issues that we saw, is that people weren't interested in the theme, in the design, in everything, but it sounds like mechanically it was a very solid, like solidly made game. Like it worked almost flawlessly, and that I think is what you said here as well.
I encountered 1 or 2 minor bugs in 90 hours and had rock-solid performance.
Just
that deserves respect.
incredible.
I don't care what anyone says.
That is respectable.
So the
100%.
environments are pretty to look at, but they don't help with the immersion when roaming around in them. Let me go on a bit of a tangent for this. We know that the game went through many major direction changes during its development and had a huge turnover.
Okay, I just wanted to read the headline. Dragon Age 4 team down to a skeleton crew series mastermind hints at a possible story from WCCF Tech. Just wanted to read out the...
During its development and had a huge turnover. It was originally planned as a proper Dragon Age 4, a sequel in the same vein as the previous games.
BioWare cancelled the original Dragon Age 4 to finish Oh. So they... I didn't know this. So they stripped down the team that was working on Mass Effect Andromeda so that the A team could work on Anthem. And they also cancelled Dragon Age 4. Ooh, talk about a bad idea.
Then due to EA pressure, they changed plans and turned it into something of a mission-based live service game. Anthem 2.0, if you will.
Fantasy
However,
Anthem.
Anthem's release was so abysmal that they reverted back to the original plan and tried to cobble together an RPG from the material of a live service game that was more than halfway done.
We've seen this so much lately. So many games seems to... Like, so many of these big budget games that have been going through development hell, we've been seeing this story quite a bit with these big failures because they wanted to do one thing and then another and then another and then another and then another and then another, and they just couldn't commit. Latest one is going to be Assassin's Creed. They just announced a delay until March, and they're probably going to delay it even more because they're having to redesign a bunch of stuff. Who was it? I think it was Asmongold who said, some babies deserve to be aborted. In this case, I can't really argue against it. Alright, let me go back a second or two.
That was more than halfway done. It's easiest to spot this in the level design. Areas are built like corridor mazes. Think of them like any hero shooter map, just bigger. No matter if it's a city, a forest, or ancient ruins. This is why a city doesn't feel like a city where people live.
Man.
Or a forest where animals roam. But a video game map.
This looks like a Soul. Like these look like Souls
just
maps.
Bigger.
Overwatch was a bad example because Overwatch, for all its flaws, the maps are fairly okay designed. This looks like Dark Souls. This looks like a Dark Souls map. Like I'm talking Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2. Which Dark Souls 2 has a notoriously bad map. But still. And this is for in general. Yeah, no, and the thing is, you have games like Vermintide where you're still going through a corridor, but it still at least gives you somewhat the illusion that you're Vermintide and Darktide, that you're somewhat going through a city. Left 4 Dead has that as well, that you are venturing through something, and for some reason there's that. Man, this is, yeah. There's a good reason you went into a tangent on this.
Something like Overwatch, just bigger.
Tangent over.
Characters and companions range from forgettable to good,
Which
the
is
game
not a good
managed
thing
to
for
get me
this.
to care about all of them to some degree. Some more than others, of course. Looking at you, Tosh. Their personal questlines are solid but predictable. The absolute highlight is Solus, the central kind of antagonist, half-friend character who toys and schemes with you the entire game. He's just great.
It took all my power to imprison them millennia ago, but I am certain you will be fine.
That's really helpful.
What are you, the elven god of sarcasm?
Lies, treachery, and rebellion, depending upon the story. And how could I help? I do not have my ritual dagger. I cannot access my network of mirrors to travel from the lighthouse to anywhere in the world. All I can offer is what I know.
Out of
Helpful
context, it's so
advice
funny.
from the elven god of, and I am quoting you here, lies, treachery, and rebellion.
Depending on the story.
Dragon Age 3 set him up to be the main villain in 4, but a lot of things changed, as described before. The actual villains
that really
are also
sucks.
great, I just wish we could see them more often. The screen time is very limited and you hear everyone constantly talk about them. It doesn't work as a build-up and just gets annoying after a while.
There's a way to be able to do that and still have the characters work. I don't like most basic example is Darth Vader in the original Star Wars New Hope. He's got what, like 15 minutes of screen time tops, and he does barely anything, but his presence is there. There's a book that I read as a kid for school. Señor Presidente, I think it was, Mr. President. Let me see if I can find The President by Miguel Ángel Asturias. Basically, it's a novel where the president, it's a bunch of political bullshit, and the president only shows up like once or twice, and he's constantly mentioned in the rest of the book, but it's so well written that it feels like you can just feel his influence and everything through everything. But you do mention the writing here is not the best. Let's continue.
How all these characters communicate is a major issue. Probably the biggest, in fact. Dialogue in general is not good. The most obvious problem is that they use so many modern idioms and expressions that it's completely immersion breaking.
I mean, I sort of tried to kill you, sorry about that. Feels like it could make things awkward.
Let me play that back.
I mean, I sort of tried to kill you, sorry about that. Feels like it could make...
The idioms, the expression, the way it was said, the way the character is moving, like the mocap and everything. If I were to do this and play the audio, you wouldn't be able to tell this is from a fantasy game that takes place in a dark fantasy? In the dark fantasy setting? At all. You would assume this is from, like, I don't know, Jane Bond 007, the transition or something. Like, how do you, as a professional writer, not achieve something as basic as putting a fantasy character in a fantasy setting? If you're a professional writer, you need to be able... one would assume you would need to be able to do something like that. To be able to write a character that is in a fantasy setting, and make it feel like it's a fantasy setting. That's the... dialogue and characters, I think, are the two most important aspects of any BioWare game, at least from what I saw in Mass Effect 1, which is the one I finished. Companions, dialogue, and the interactions, like the writing in general, and the interaction between the characters and the companions would be the focal points of these games, and how those interactions affect the world. If your game that is supposed to focus on that doesn't. Because this is either a lack of focus or a lack of competence, which it could easily be both, considering all the twists and turns this game took. So that's not good. Let's continue.
Things awkward.
Well, you've saved my life lots of times.
Lots
So
of times?
I think this one's a freebie.
A freebie?
Right.
On a deeper level, though,
Right?
it's written like a Marvel movie script. Annoying quipping, nothing is allowed to be taken seriously. All the usual Marvel crap. It lacks the depth and somber tone of the older games. Some places, it is also just plain stupid.
I would apologize for pausing this so much. No, you just made a point there that it feels like Marvel. No, this is worse than Marvel, because at least with Marvel, you can tell apart the different characters with their mannerisms. Or at least up until Endgame, I guess. Like, you know, Chris Hemsworth, Thor had his own way of speaking. Captain America had his own way of speaking. Iron Man had his own way of speaking. Like, you could hear any of them speak, and you would be able to, not just their voices, but the mannerisms, the way, the expressions, the performance in general. You would be able to distinguish them. And even in some of the more recent slop that they've had, they still hold that. Like, that's one of the few things that Marvel just has horrible writing. But the characters themselves, you can at least place them accordingly. Thor will still act as the god from Norse mythology, and he still has that air of that in his character writing. As much as it has deteriorated recently, he still has that. The TV, the series and all is shit. The last show I saw of Marvel was Loki season 1, and I haven't. That's the last thing I saw of Marvel, because I got bored. I got really bored. Like, I watched like the last film from Marvel, technically Deadpool 3, but that I don't really count that as MCU. Spider-Man No Way Home. Before that, Endgame. Loki definitely an exception. Yeah, I didn't see season 2, but I saw that they did redeem his character and whatnot. And yeah, I know that the movies ever since No Way Home, they've dropped significantly in quality. And I know that somebody like Dunkel doesn't hold the rest of the movies in that high regard either. Dunkel has a good point, because he watches really good movies. Like, he's on a mission to culture me, and every once in a while we just watch really good films. Last time we watched, what was it? We watched The Thing and American History X. Holy fuck. Yeah, no, you compare that to anything. We've seen like some Scorsese stuff and whatnot, and you can then see, yeah, they're in completely different dimensions. These two, like, it's not even a separate league. These are just completely separate dimensions of filmmaking, and Marvel just keeps getting consistently worse. But back to my point, the characters, or at least the characters that I saw, I am old school. I watched up to when Endgame was end of phase 3. Start of phase 4. What was it? Yeah, end of phase 3, start of phase 4, because I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, which I considered it more like an epilogue to phase 3 rather than the start of phase 4. So I'm talking from that perspective. I haven't seen any other Marvel movies since. I haven't. The only show I saw was Loki season 1, and I'm gonna count that away. But Marvel's phases 1, 2, and 3, the characters, despite the world and some of the interactions, the individual characters, I would say, were still written in a way that they felt unique to each other. From here, although, to be fair, we've seen like 10, 15-second clips of each of them, I wouldn't be able to tell any of these apart from Tash. And even Tash, I wouldn't be able to tell any of them apart. Maybe the elf villain anti-hero, maybe him, Solus, maybe Solus, because we heard him a little bit more. Well, that is a very big, that's a very big failure on behalf of the writers to not be able to set that up. Anyway, let's continue. Enough of a tangent.
Wasn't expecting to fight an ogre today. Then again, I also didn't expect to learn that my gods are rampaging around and trying to end the world. Just one of those days.
Despite this, every 3-4 hours the game just throws some amazing moments at you writing-wise, which makes the other 90% between those moments all the more egregious.
Such purity in every stone. It's trapped my heart. I love this city.
You have a strange way of showing your affection.
I conquered it. I didn't betray it. Not like the cattle born here. You know there are traitors here. They ransom their own city. Literal gods stalk the land, but
Yeah,
these
this guy looks
filth
cool. He
worship
sounds
their own
cool.
Purses. But you're different.
If you really do love this city, you'll tell me where the gods are holding the ritual.
Bro, how is this even the same game?
The gods, they give strength. But all they ask in return is everything. I can feel their corruption. I can hear their whispers.
Whoops, we can't have too much of that. Yeah, no, like, you could have told me this was from any of the other Dragon Age games, because I haven't played them. Design-wise, performance, expressions, everything just felt like they actually hired a writer that knows what he's doing. And all the rest are like fresh out of college.
So, I'm non-binary.
Fucking.
There are also practically no evil or anti-hero choices in the game either.
This is the most
In
disappointing
the old
part.
games, you could be the most magnificent, nasty bastard, especially in Origins. All of that is gone. Choices range from good to a more standoffish good.
That's so boring.
On a grander scale, though, the narrative is serviceable. What I found lacking was limited amount of big choices. They are certainly there, but far fewer than what we're used to from BioWare. And only a few of them actually matter or influence what happens in the game later.
That's like the choices you make in like Black Desert Online or no, what was the other one? Throne and Liberty. I played like 10 minutes of Black Desert Online. No, I played like 100 hours of Throne and Liberty. Like that's how it sounds like. Because in Throne and Liberty, you have choices every once in a while, and the biggest choices you have are the rewards you get, and all the dialogue options are just... It's an MMO, what the fuck do you expect? The way the characters look could have... Like, the way the characters in general in this game are just feels... And I haven't played the game, and I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to put myself through that. It just feels mediocre. I remember Mass Effect 1 because that's the one I did play from all the BioWare games. We're gonna play all the other ones eventually, and I remember, yeah, the characters. You know, you can excuse the some of the clunkier design, some of the clunkier stuff, and this is one of the first games. It was probably their first big game. Technology of the time, all that kind of stuff, but the writing still just made everything feel well weaved together, competent, and thought out. If your choices don't amount to any consequences in your writing, in a choice-driven game, you did not think through your narrative. And if you did not think through your narrative in your narrative-driven, choice-based game, What the hell are you doing? Let's continue. We have like 3 minutes left. I keep pausing. I'm not apologizing.
Building on this point, the game is quite detached from the original trilogy. While in theory being a direct sequel, the vast majority of overarching plotlines are dropped, old central conflicts ignored, especially the problematic one. Dwarves, elves, humans, and all other races pretty much forgot to be racist against each other.
It's the funniest shit.
While fantasy racism and slavery were super important to the lore and story of the older games, the setting had a very unique take on elves, for example, them being a formerly enslaved and downtrodden people who know little about their ancient empire.
Get that bloody mud out of the larder!
But mistress, it won't let us near.
If I can't get into that larder, I'll skin both of you useless elves, I swear it.
She should have used
If you created a female elf character in Dragon Age Origins, the first game, one of the options was to start the game as a ghetto elf trying to escape a human lord who's trying to violate you.
Man.
It's a party, isn't it?
They didn't hold punches.
Grab a whore and have a good time. Savor the hunt, boys. Take this little elven wench here. So young and vulnerable.
Like, okay, we look at the designs here. This is the first Dragon Age game. The graphics are dated and the animations are dated. Like, the mouth moves weirdly because this is from, like, what, at least 15 years ago. Like, this is from the Xbox 360 era at most. This is old tech we're talking about. Yeah, this is Dragon Age 1, Dragon Age Origins. When did it come out? Age Origins release date. Dragon Age Origins, November 3rd, 2009. So that is 15 years ago, or 15 years before Dragon Age the Veilguard. Yeah, you can tell that the textures very limited for their time. But look at the designs, dude. Look at the designs. These feel like fantasy characters. These are an environment. These are in a fantasy environment. You can just see it at first glance. The noble looks like a noble. The elves look like peasant elves, except this one looks a little bit fancier than that. But they're still, like, you can see the class difference and everything.
Catch me and I'll gut you, you pig.
Please, my lord. We're celebrating weddings here.
Silence!
Like, look at that. Like, this looks
But
fantasy
now we
and
just
medieval.
all live happily together, holding hands. The game tries to wear the skin of Dragon Age, and it has some really strong moments where the old qualities do shine through, but it can't be called Dragon Age anymore. The strongest of these strong moments is the ending. I don't know if they handed the finale off to a completely different team or something, but the last 5 hours are phenomenal.
They might have brought
You
the
make
old team
more
back for
decisions
that.
than in the whole game up to that point combined.
They assembled
have
the gang.
weight and are written super well. You make heavy decisions, people die, and you pay for your choices dearly. The overall ending is satisfying and has big twists with several ending options.
That's really cool.
But even the best ending in the world isn't worth sitting through 80 hours of this to get to it.
Yeah.
Looking at the game as someone who isn't immediately put off by wokeness
Woke
and
bad.
treating it as a standalone title in a vacuum,
Woke
I was
bad.
ready to give the game a final score of 6 out of 10. But the ending made me change that to a 6.5 out of 10. It's not a bad game per se, but there are so many much better ones out there that came out in 2024 alone. Now, looking at it from a Dragon Age fan's point of view, it's a Dragon Age is Dead out of 10 game. Thanks for watching. Dunkel out.
Well, there you have it. From a loyal fan of Dragon Age. Here's the video, by the way. I'm putting it in the chat. From a loyal fan of Dragon Age. He's got an awesome voice. Dunkel has an awesome voice. I am going to coach him on how to do some more voiceovers. Because he does have an accent, which, nothing wrong with that. But I am coaching him. Because, dude, this is his very first video. He has never uploaded a video to YouTube before. He's got 2 subscribers, dude. Like, I am... Dunkel, you have to make more, dude. I don't care what you make these of. Like, go make a video about your favorite Scorsese movie, or go make your argument about how Marvel movies are in cinema, or I don't know, go talk about your master thesis about the Unabomber. No, I think it was your. I don't remember which one. I know you did a paper on the Unabomber. I just don't remember which one it was. Make more, dude. Make more. This is so good. Like, the editing in this is so good. The editing is pristine. The visuals and everything is incredible. The fact that you bothered with subtitles in general is incredible. Like, I'm impressed by this being your very first video, dude. So, really, really good stuff. And you said, yeah, you called this Dragon Age. I wouldn't, because this feels like a spin-off type of title, and it reminds me of this. Oh god, it's 7 minutes. I'm not gonna. It was a teaser trailer. Alright, so there's Big Boss. There's why are we here, just to suffer, guy? There they go. There we go. This is what I wanted to show you. Holy fuck, we might have been in the right video. But this is what happened to the Dragon Age franchise, okay? Just a bunch of portals opened up. Oh no! We are being sucked into a completely different universe. Oh no! Something completely unrelated to the main franchise is happening now. Oh, what is this? The main characters? There are none of those. Oh, look at that! Completely new characters that no one is gonna care about. Yeah, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. Yeah, no, the rest of the video is just... Yeah. Get isekai'd into a plastic gear fiberglass. So... This is... the reason why... One of the reasons why I resented Konami for a very long time. Metal Gear Survive has nothing Metal Gear-y. It was just made on the Fox engine. Completely different story, just sucked everything into a completely different universe altogether. So yeah, you get it, like Metal Gear Survive, you get isekai'd into a shitty zombie apocalypse game. Frexy, welcome to today, how you doing? We just finished watching Dunkel Kaiser's review of Dragon Age the Veilguard, because he made a full video review, and it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because the IP, but it gets in different direction, you have to do the quarter treatment. Yeah, no, and what I wanted to say was that what they did with Dragon Age is what Konami did to Metal Gear. They just completely changed the universe up and hoped to meet a market that wasn't there. That's what I think happened. So, I wouldn't even call Veilguard Dragon Age. I would call it something like Drake Age or Wyvern Age, something like that. Because from what I've seen, it has nothing. It's a skin suit kind of thing. But from what we saw in your review, I wouldn't call it much of a Dragon Age game anymore. Still, this video was incredible. Go subscribe to Dunkel. Go demand more videos of him, from him, because this was really, really, really good. Yes, so there you go.